1965. The Beatles were playing Shea Stadium. The Vietnam War was escalating, and in America, Detroit was preparing for war. Ford was fighting Chevrolet. Pontiac was fighting Dodge. Every manufacturer wanted to build the fastest production car they possibly could. The muscle car era wasn't just beginning in 1965, it was exploding. Today, we're counting down the 15 fastest American production cars of 1965 based on period 0 to 60 tests, 15 cars. One incredible year. Let's see what fast looked like in 1965. Number 15. 1965. Mercury Comet Cyclone. Mercury was often seen as Ford's more conservative sibling, but in 1965, the Comet Cyclone was Mercury's attempt to change that image. Built on the compact Comet platform, the Cyclone combined sporty styling with a 289 cubic inch V8, producing 225 horsepower. Bucket seats, a center console, and optional racing stripes completed the package. 8.8 seconds to 60. That's slow by today's standards, but in 1965, the Cyclone was a genuinely sporty compact that could turn heads at a stoplight. It would become much more powerful in later years, but this was where the Cyclone performance story began. Number 14. 1965. Dodge Coronet 426 Street Wedge. Before the legendary Hemi took over, Dodge had another big block weapon, the 426 Street Wedge. It didn't have the exotic hemispherical heads of the Hemi, but it delivered 365 horsepower and enormous torque at a much more accessible price. 7.9 seconds to 60 in a full-size Dodge was seriously quick for 1965. The Street Wedge would eventually be overshadowed by the legendary 426 Hemi, but for buyers who wanted big block performance without the Hemi's price and exclusivity, the Coronet 426 was an impressive package. Number 13. 1965. Ford Mustang Fastback Hypo 289. The Mustang had already changed the American car market when it arrived in 1964, but by 1965, Ford had created a version for drivers who wanted more than just style. The Fastback Mustang with the high-performance 289, also known as the K code, produced 271 horsepower from its 4.7-liter V8. At around 2,800 pounds, it could reach 60 miles per hour in just 7.6 seconds. But the Hypo Mustang wasn't just about speed. It became the foundation for something much more serious. Carroll Shelby would take this Mustang and turn it into the GT350. Number 12. 1965. Pontiac Catalina 2 + 2 4 2 1. While everyone was talking about the GTO in 1965, Pontiac was quietly building something much bigger, the Catalina 2 + 2. It combined a full-size body with bucket seats, a center console, sport steering, and Pontiac's powerful 421 cubic inch V8, producing 376 horsepower. 7.2 seconds to 60 was seriously quick for such a large American car. This wasn't a stripped-down drag racer. It was a comfortable full-size cruiser that could embarrass much smaller cars when the road opened up. With Pontiac's famous wide-track handling, the 2 + 2 proved that you didn't necessarily have to sacrifice comfort for performance. Number 11. 1965. Oldsmobile 442. The name said it all. 4-barrel carburetor, 4-speed transmission, and dual exhaust. For 1965, Oldsmobile gave the 442 a new 400 cubic inch V8 producing 345 horsepower, along with a proper performance suspension and much stronger marketing. Car and driver recorded 7.1 seconds to 60 miles per hour with the 4-speed and 3.55 rear axle. It wasn't the fastest car on this list, but it was fast enough to establish the 442 as a serious performance machine. And this was only the beginning. The 442 would become dramatically more powerful as the muscle car era continued. Number 10. 1965 Shelby Mustang GT 350. Carroll Shelby looked at the hypo Mustang and saw a race car hiding inside a pony car. He transformed the 289 with new cylinder heads, a high-rise intake, Holley 4-barrel carburetion, and tri-Y headers, bringing output to 306 horsepower. The suspension was heavily revised, Coney shocks were added, and the rear seat was removed to save weight. The result was a Mustang built for SCCA B production racing, 7 seconds flat to 60. But the GT 350 wasn't simply a faster Mustang. Shelby had created a completely different driving machine that shared the Mustang's bodywork. In 1965, the GT 350 won the SCCAB Production National Championship and established Shelby as one of Ford's most important performance partners. Number 9. 1965 Buick Skylark Gran Sport 401. Buick made a muscle car in 1965, and it wasn't joking around. The Skylark Gran Sport was Buick's answer to cars like the GTO, combining a mid-size body with a massive 401 cubic inch V8, producing 325 horsepower and 445 pound-feet of torque. It could hit 60 miles per hour in around 7 seconds, matching the Shelby GT 350, but the two delivered their performance very differently. The Shelby was light, sharp, and race-focused. The Buick relied on huge low-end torque, delivering its power with a wave of acceleration rather than high RPM drama. The Gran Sport was a muscle car for buyers who wanted serious performance without shouting about it, and Buick had just entered the muscle car war. Number 8. 1965 Pontiac GTO Tri-Power. There would be no muscle car era without the GTO. The 1964-65 Pontiac GTO proved that putting a big engine into a mid-size car and selling it to younger buyers wasn't just possible. It was a formula for success. For 1965, the Tri-Power option added 3 2-barrel Rochester carburetors to the 389 V8, producing 360 horsepower. The center carb handled normal driving, while all 3 opened at full throttle, giving the GTO a dramatic rush of power, 6.6 seconds to 60. With its Coke bottle styling, stacked headlights, and hood-mounted tachometer, the GTO looked as aggressive as it felt, and 1965 was the final year for the Tri-Power setup, making this one of the most memorable versions of the original muscle car. Number 7. 1965 Chevelle Malibu SS Z16 396. Only 201 of these were built. The Z16 was Chevrolet's early experiment with putting the new 396 big block into the Chevelle, months before the engine became widely available. With 375 horsepower, the Z16 could reach 60 miles per hour in just 6 seconds, making it faster than many of the muscle cars, getting far more attention in 1965. Inside, it looked like a normal Malibu SS, bucket seats, center console, and a familiar dashboard. But underneath was a reinforced chassis and the new big block 396. Just 201 examples were produced. Every one of them became part of the foundation for the legendary big block Chevelle that followed. Number 6. 1965 Chevrolet Corvette 327/375 fuel injected. By 1965, Chevrolet's Rochester mechanical fuel injection had been refined for nearly a decade. The fuel-injected 327 V8 produced 375 horsepower, and in a Corvette weighing around 3,000 pounds, that meant 5.6 seconds to 60 miles per hour. The C2 Stingray was already one of America's most striking sports cars, but the fuel-injected version added another level of exclusivity and performance. It was also the final year of Corvette fuel injection before Chevrolet returned to carburetors. The 327 wasn't the biggest engine on this list, but its combination of lightweight, precise fuel delivery, and Corvette handling made it one of the most sophisticated performance cars America had built. Number 5. 1965 Plymouth Belvedere 426 Hemi. The 426 Hemi had already made its name on the NASCAR circuit before Plymouth put it into a street car. With hemispherical combustion chambers, dual 4-barrel induction, and 425 horsepower, the Hemi transformed the relatively light Belvedere into a serious weapon. 5.5 seconds to 60, with properly prepared cars capable of running in the low 13 seconds through the quarter mile. What made the Belvedere even more dangerous was how ordinary it looked. Clean styling, a relatively modest body, and one enormous engine underneath. It was one of the earliest examples of the American sleeper, a car that looked ordinary until the throttle went down. Number 4. 1965 Chevrolet Corvette L78 396. In 1965, Chevrolet dropped its new 396 cubic inch big block into the Corvette. The L78 produced 425 horsepower through a solid lifter camshaft, 11.0 to 1 compression, and a Holley 4-barrel. The larger engine was so tall that Chevrolet had to redesign the Corvette's hood to fit it. The result was 5.4 seconds to 60 miles per hour. But the L78 wasn't just about straight-line speed. The Corvette's independent suspension and sharp handling made 425 horsepower far more intimidating when the road started to bend. The big block Corvette story had officially begun, and Chevrolet was only getting started. Number 3. 1965 Dodge Coronet 426 Hemi. Chrysler's engineers originally weren't sure the 426 Hemi could even pass federal street car certification. Its compression ratio was extreme, the idle was rough, and its fuel requirements were demanding. It had been designed for racing, not the street, but they made it work. In 1965, the Dodge Coronet became one of the first production cars to bring the legendary street Hemi to American buyers. Car and driver recorded 5.3 seconds to 60, faster than the production cars offered by Ford or GM that year. And this wasn't a lightweight sports car. It was a big, full-size Dodge carrying one of America's most powerful V8. Yes, the Hemi's hemispherical combustion chambers gave it an advantage at high RPM, and when the engine came alive, the Coronet didn't simply accelerate, it surged forward. In 1965, the reputation of the 426 Hemi was born. Number 2. 1965 Ford Galaxie 500XL 427. Ford didn't exactly advertise this combination. They simply made it available to buyers who knew what to ask for and let the numbers speak. The Galaxie 500XL could be fitted with Ford's 427 V8, including the 425 horsepower dual-quad version developed from Ford's NASCAR racing program. Car Life tested one in 1965 and recorded 4.8 seconds to 60 miles per hour. That's remarkable for a full-size Ford, a long, comfortable car that looked almost ordinary from the outside. The quarter mile came in the low 14 seconds, proving that the Galaxie wasn't just a big cruiser. It was a genuine performance machine, and in 1965, only one American production car could beat it. Number 1. 1965 Shelby Cobra 427. Carroll Shelby had taken the already brutal Cobra and fitted it with Ford's 427 cubic inch side-oiler V8. The chassis was widened and reinforced. The suspension was revised, and the Cobra was transformed into something far more aggressive than its 289-powered predecessor. Officially, it produced 425 horsepower. But behind the wheel, it was an entirely different experience. No air conditioning, no radio, barely any creature comforts, just a lightweight tubular chassis, 2 seats, 4 wheels, and a massive V8. With its open cockpit and enormous power, the Cobra didn't need luxury or refinement. It needed road, and in 1965, nothing else from an American manufacturer could match its acceleration. 4.3 seconds to 60 miles per hour, 12.2 seconds through the quarter mile, 118 miles per hour. In the middle of America's muscle car revolution, the Shelby Cobra 427 stood completely alone.